Welcome to Business and Happiness Podcast. I'm your host, Braco, Pobric. This episode is sponsored by Life Success Academy, a place where you recreate your business and personal happiness. My guest today is Carolyn King, business owner, positive psychology master coach, and kinesiologist. Hello, Carolyn. How are you?
I'm well, Braco. How are you?
I'm doing great. So good to see you. I know it's, what time is it you're in Australia, right?
I am in Australia. It's about 10 to 8 in the morning. How about you? You're in New York?
I'm in New York, New Jersey. So it's 5:59, 5:49, which, as you know, it's like my end of the day. So hopefully I'll have enough energy for us to talk about this important subject, which is, it's really people are going through really difficult time. I learned from you that in Australia, you guys now have a curfew. You can't even go out except to get for essentials. And it's really, really hard. And I was thinking maybe we can chat about, how can we help people? Please give a couple of ideas to help them navigate through this, navigate optimistically, as we kind of talked about earlier, through this COVID-19 time. What do you think?
I think that's a really important topic to discuss. I mean, I'm in Melbourne and we've had over 200 days of lockdown here in Melbourne over the last couple of years. We've just headed into another one, and I know, speaking to a lot of people, they've been hit hard by these lockdowns, and to help people become a little bit more optimistic to navigate through this, I think is really beneficial. I think we all need it, and I think we all need a boost.
We all need a boost. So, but the only thing is, if you think about optimism, we do know based on research that some people have a more optimistic genes than others, right? And honestly, I just happen to be one of those. My mom was so optimistic, and I've been really lucky that I have more of those genes. But I also worked really hard to build it. I really did, consciously. Picked up a tools, years ago, and just keep working on it. What do you think of that? Because people will say, I'm just not optimistic. My parents were not optimistic. Just don't ask me to be optimistic.
Look, I believe that you can change anything in your brain. Neuroplasticity shows us we can change it. I know, as someone that used to be depressed, and it was only 9 years ago that I was suffering from depression, that we can change it. And I am a fairly optimistic person now. Prior to the depression, even though I was depressed, I may have still been optimistic, but I know I was sitting in a darker place. So I truly believe it is something we can change through using the tools, through practice, that we can change the way we look at the world and become more optimistic. So I think anyone can at least improve their optimistic levels.
Agreed. And there's a ton of research that proves that. We have so many colleagues that prove that. You are the real life, example that you can prove it. I'm not, because I wasn't as optimistic, I think. And when we talk about optimism, I also want to say that I like to call it grounded optimism. So it's based on something that happened before. So you can't just say everything will be fine. That's what I used to say to my wife. Don't worry, everything will be fine. She's like, no, it won't. And then I didn't know what to say, right? But now I say everything will be fine because, and I look at the similar situation and I go back and say, remember 10 years ago, it was something similar. And then we took actions. We did this, and that. We were able to solve the problem. So, but COVID, of course, none of us went through COVID in our lifetime.
No one's ever gone through a pandemic like this. And I think that's the difficultness for most people, to be able to see their way out of this when all we hear is there's going to be a new COVID normal. What does COVID normal mean? How is that different to my pre-COVID normal? And there's all these terms that get thrown around. And I think that's the trouble, that none of us have gone through this before. There have been other viruses out there that they thought were going to be big, but died out pretty fast. I know there was a swine flu a few years ago.
Yes.
But that really didn't affect, I know it didn't affect me in Australia. So yeah, I would agree. This is probably the biggest thing that we've all had to face as a planet globally. Yes. Everyone is impacted with COVID. But I guess the optimism then comes in that, as a human race and as people, we can navigate through things. We always come out the other end.
And that's the way that we actually build resiliency. It's the bad time that helps us build resiliency, not a good time. When everything is good, you don't need to be resilient, right? And you're not practicing resiliency tools. When the bad things happen, and they do, it doesn't have to be COVID. Things happen in life. We all go through good, bad, and ugly.
Absolutely, every single one of us.
Right. And if we practice it while it's not that bad, it will help us through bad time. But what do you think would be, let's cover like a couple of things. What do you think would be one of the things that's really important for folks to know?
I think one of the biggest things is social support and social contact. I know with COVID and lockdowns, a lot of us are limited in who we can actually connect with. So we're stuck, and I say stuck because it can feel like you're stuck with the people you're living with. It can get like that a little bit over, all consuming. But it's really, if you live alone, I think it's even more difficult. If you have someone in the house, hopefully you get along with those people, because that can be difficult in its own right. So it's really making sure you feel supported by your friends and family. And this is the one blessing I think we do have in our day and age, is that we can connect with people via Zoom, via phone, via WhatsApp. There's so many different mediums where we can pick up the phone, or if we want to see someone, there's so many video options these days. So it's really that social support. What do you think, Braco?
100% agree. I think, for some people, here's what I'm thinking, like you said, people who live alone, it's really the most difficult. I know I have two sisters who live alone, and least thing I try to do is to call them every day, because it's really, really difficult. People who live with someone, with a partner, and didn't have a great relationship before COVID, they're probably going through a rough time, right? And hopefully this taught them a lesson to basically create better relationships. People who worked on their relationships before, honestly, I think had a great time. I mean, my wife and I were alone all this time. We actually locked ourselves totally in the house. We didn't go shopping for a year and a half out. Everything was delivered. I know it's crazy, but my wife has certain conditions that, if she gets this, would be really bad. And I was worried, didn't want to bring it. So I think that the home relationships are very, very important. But there's a lot more out there. And as you said, in the past it was like, okay, maybe just a phone call. But now, my son actually said, you do see your grandson now more than you saw him before COVID, because he calls me every day on FaceTime now, right? So yes, I do see him more. It used to be every couple of weeks. So we really, really need to use the technology. And for some people listening that don't really know how, to go and get that social support to help them, right? Use technology so this way, because it's really important. It's not, we can't get together in person, but as you said, there are so many other ways that we can and should and need to.
Absolutely. And I know people that have had online parties. I know I've got a girlfriend at the moment that's organising an online catch up, because like I said, Melbourne's just been thrown into another lockdown that I know yesterday hit us quite hard, and she's organising something in a couple of weeks, and it's all online. And I think it's a trivia night. We can get people from anywhere, and you can still feel connected. You can still have that fun. So it's not even just those conversations, which are also really important to do, but you can have, I know people that have had parties online where they've all had to dress up and they just talk to each other online, and they may have their, their drink next to them. And so it's really thinking about how you can feel those connections. Okay, we can't physically touch someone and be in the same room with them, but we can have a lot of fun and a lot of, jokes online. We did it last year for my auntie's birthday. My cousin organised all of us to get onto one of the platforms. I can't remember what platform it was. And we surprised her. And she just saw everyone's faces just pop up for her birthday because we couldn't get together. It was so beautiful to see. So it's those little things that we can do that help us feel connected. And like I said, it's not just those phone calls. You can organise a party online and sing happy birthday, and, and you don't have to leave your house.
Right. I share with a bunch of my friends. Sometimes I have one-on-one, and with the friends, you have happy hour, right? And, advantage of happy hour with the friends, if they do drink and you don't want to drink, you just put some water in your glass. They don't know. You say it's vodka, and you have fun. But
and they don't have to drive home too. That's the
yes. So, but it's also, for some of us, some people that they feel like, lonely, they feel like they're cut off, to reach out to friends, to ask for help, to tell them that they're struggling, right? This is why we have this social support. This is why, we are built to live together. We're not built to live alone. That's why people are going through a rough time, right? But just please, I recommend folks just ask for help from your friends, from your family, tell them that you're struggling. If you are struggling, that would be like the first step, maybe, too, right? Because some people are going through even more difficult time.
Absolutely. And I think it's also okay to admit that you're struggling. I know last Thursday I had a bit of a meltdown myself, and I'm quite an optimistic person, but I think everything had just gotten too much, and I felt a little bit run down and I felt overwhelmed. But once I told my family, as in my kids and my husband, I felt a lot better, and I literally bounced back by the end of the day. So it's okay to own that and to admit, hey, I'm struggling today, and not to feel guilty, not to put yourself down, but just to say, I'm struggling today. I'm just going to let you know I need to have a bit of a cry, or I need to have a little bit of a yell, or I need to punch a pillow, whatever it is that you need to do. Allow yourself to feel that. And then it seems to just sort of, you're not fighting it then. And I know for me anyway, I bounce back a lot faster when I just say, hey, today I'm not having a good day. I give myself permission to sit on the couch if that's what I need to do that day. And then I bounce back the next day with no guilt. I think that's the biggest thing, is no guilt, no shame in feeling it.
This is really important what you said. So no guilt, no shame in feeling bad, because we know all the feelings are good. There's a reason, right, for all of these feelings, and there's a place and time, because although you and I cover and teach a lot to happiness and positive psychology, that is not, we don't tell people be happy all the time, because nobody is and nobody should be. But if you look at the guilt in this case, is terrible. Although guilt has a place, guilt also has a place. If you do something that's terrible and you feel a little guilt, it's a good thing, because you're not going to do it again, right?
But you shouldn't feel guilty for how you feel right now.
Exactly. Any feelings, there should never, ever be guilt about how you feel, regardless how you feel. I mean, that's, or any emotion that you may have, that period. You're absolutely right. Love it. Love it. So, okay. So people should, look for some, make sure that there is that the social support surrounding them during this time, right? That's
what I'd love to say in there as well is we can reach out to our friends, a little bit of kindness. Every now and then I will just send 3 or 4 friends a message and say, hey, just checking in. How are you going? And the response I get, and I do it from a heartfelt space. So I don't do it every day just because it's a task. I do it when I think, all right, or I feel I need to reach out to this person. And I did that last week. And I remember one person actually responded, and she said, you'll never know how much it meant for you just to reach out and say, hey, how are you? Sending you some love. I'm here if you need to. And we didn't get on the phone or on a video call to chat. She just needed to know someone was there asking her how she is. So that's the flip side of it. And honestly, it helped her feel better. And it was really nice to hear that back. And it makes me feel good. That kindness when we do something for somebody else, it's just so lovely to that helps us feel more connected, doesn't it?
Yes. And then, as you mentioned the other time, we talked about the kindness, right? How we know there's so much research that helps people who does that act of kindness, help people receiving it, and also helps people observing it, right? And I think, giving a kindness, even if you just performing act of kindness, as I call it, even if you just do it for the selfish reason, is the great thing to do, because it's helping you. Being kind, it helps you become increase your overall well-being. That's for sure.
It really does.
So, for some of us lucky ones, right? And unfortunately, this is, again, some people go through a terrible time. And, I actually lost my, next door neighbor when COVID just hit, and family is going through a rough time. And so I just want to acknowledge that and, be just so grateful for, that we didn't go through it, and also really understand and, being passionate and sorry about what's happening to other people. But for some of us lucky ones that didn't go through that, what else can we do? Or there's something that we kind of chatted about. What else can we do to to optimistically navigate through COVID?
One of the things I learned early on last year, I was really worried that I would waste the time, that I would come out of COVID and think, what have I done? So I thought, let me take advantage of this little extra time that I have. And the extra time came from, for me, I wasn't having as many clients because what I do is predominantly in the clinic, but I do work online. But apart from that, I didn't have to take my kids to school. I didn't have to take them to all their activities. So I suddenly found myself with that little bit more time. I chose to use that time wisely. I took advantage of that time. So that's what I would say to people. I created some products. I did a whole lot of study because I love to learn. I would say take advantage of the extra time you have. And for some, it could be exercising more. And this time around, I've actually started exercising more. I'm always looking at ways to, how can I use my time more wisely because I'm less tired, because I'm doing less running around. What can I do? Can I meditate more? Can I learn something new? Can I, what can I do? What can I create? How about you, Braco? How do you feel about using the time wisely, taking advantage of the extra time?
I mean, to be honest with you, I did a very similar thing, taking advantage, but I wanted to ask you specifically. So a lot of people who were in your position 10 years ago may actually go the other way, be depressed. You had so many reasons actually to go back to depression. Think about it. You lost your clients, so you lost a lot of your income. I mean, if that's the reason, that's huge one, right? But then instead of going back going to downward spiral and feeling bad and thinking, I'm losing income, what the heck am I gonna do? You thought of, let me think about how to take advantage of this time. How did you do that?
I think I'm not going to lie. The first few weeks I was lost. I thought, what am I going to do? And then I was having a conversation with somebody online and I mentioned a product that I wanted to create. And what happened was I thought, oh, I've announced this publicly now. I need to get my butt into gear and create this product right now. And it's my kinesiology cards, and I believe they're a world first. So I buckled down and I got them all done. And when I had that finished, I felt this sense of accomplishment. And I thought, oh, I feel really good. I've got this product. What else can I do now? What else can I do? And so I looked at some courses and I created some other things. And I think for me, knowing what it feels like to be depressed and feeling how I feel now, I know that I love to finish things. I love to feel accomplished. I love to learn. That's what feeds my soul. For somebody else, it may be reading a really good book. It may be learning how to, or practicing to run a marathon, whatever it is, or learning to paint. It's something that feeds your soul, and that builds your optimism because it builds your happy hormones, which builds your endorphins, and you feel better. And for me, I actually made a list. So I've got a list behind my desk, and it's just behind me here, of everything I accomplished last year, so that I didn't get to the end of the year and think, what did I do this year? And I think that was my driving force. And then I kept adding things to it. And I thought, oh, wow, I've done this course and I've done this course and I've created this and, I've learnt this. And some of them were overcoming fear. One of my fears was doing Facebook Lives. So I thought, I'm going to nail this. I'm going to do some Facebook Lives. The other one, of course, was doing Braco's course, the positive psychology course. I thought, oh, this looks really good. I can't wait to dive into this. And now here I am, and I have the certification, and so using that time wisely. And it doesn't matter what it is. I have clients that do paint by numbers. So again, they come out with something, and I call some of these things my COVID babies. So then so I don't know about you, but were you able to take advantage of the time?
I never exercised this much and this long. I never had longer meditation sessions. I never had enjoyable time with my wife at 6 o'clock dinner and afterwards. And I mean, yes, I absolutely did. But I think, and I keep thinking of you because it's really important. Let me make one statement and you tell me if I'm wrong. The reason, because let's be honest, some people will struggle, even we're talking about all this, they will still struggle to do what you and I do. But I think the reason you were able to do it easily, because you spent, last 10 years or so really practicing some of these tools, and it was easier for you to move on. And this is why I tell people, don't wait for hard time in life to hit you. Do this now. Practice resiliency tool, practice optimism, so that when something happens, right, you'll be able to easily overcome. What is that? Am I right?
Yeah, look, I did go through a hard time. I hit rock bottom at the end of 2012, so I know what that really dark time is. And I did a lot of work to clear that, a lot of personal development, a lot of personal reflection. And through that, I think that's what really increased my resiliency and my optimism, by doing that work. So I know what it feels like to be there, and it's never the wrong time to start working on yourself. It's never the wrong time to start looking at yourself and how can I make my life that little bit better? And, you know, I'm not saying that I went from depressed to happy overnight. It took a full year of a lot of work. And even in that year, you know, since then, I've continued to work. It hasn't stopped. It wasn't like, oh, that's it, I'm happy, I'm done. No. I've built on that happiness, and that happiness has become so much more part of me, and it's so much stronger and deeper than it was. So it's never, or I should say, it's always a good time to start. And it's the little things. So even right now, if you're feeling a bit down, what can you do to make yourself feel a bit better? Do you want to learn how to paint? Do you want to learn to meditate? You know, there's so many programs out there, and you can do this from the safety of your home. Do you want to exercise more? You know, we're not talking about running a marathon. It might be, today I want to walk 5,000 steps or whatever it is, or I want to learn how to do a push-up. I'll start with 1 push-up today and 2 tomorrow, or whatever it is. But I promise you, one little step today with the next step tomorrow will build up. And I know Braco says that. I know when you talk a lot about, you know, get up and exercise for 5 minutes and the next day make it 6, and it just snowballs, doesn't it?
Yes. You know, when you said that 5 minutes exercise, it reminded me, at one point I did there was a talk in one of the places where we had like 2 Buddhist, I think they call them Buddhist priests. So they're not monks. I don't even know exact difference. But so what happened is, you know, I was saying, look, if you want to meditate, or, you know, then just start like 5 minutes, 3 minutes a day. And I said, I'm sure these 2 guys will not agree with me. They were like, I don't know about 2 minutes. You know, so we had a good time discussing. But yes, just start. All right, Nike, just do it. Easily said than done, but that works.
It is, but it's one step at a time. That's all it is.
Exactly. So how about some folks, even after all of this, right, still struggle? Again, you know, you give a lot of examples and you know what to do. But some folks still struggle. Some don't struggle a lot. They might need a little push, a little help. Some struggle more. If none of this works, so they tried, right? Well, let's just spend a few minutes to kind of give them some ideas what to do.
It's so important to reach out for help. And, you know, depending on where you are, maybe a coach can help, but otherwise it may be a counselor or a psychologist or a therapist. It is okay to reach out for help. In fact, I highly recommend that if you are struggling, you reach out for real help, because reaching out today means that you'll start to feel better sooner. If you hold on, and I know with myself, because I didn't reach out for help soon enough, I started to spiral, and that's what can happen. So right now, a session today with a counselor or a therapist or a professional of some sort will help you more than waiting, you know, 6 weeks or a month. So, and not only that, I have to say, I'm not sure about you in the US, but I know in Australia it can take quite a bit of time to book into some therapists. So some counsellors, some psychiatrists, it takes a long time to get in to see them. So making a decision today to reach out and book an appointment is really important, and finding someone you resonate with, that you think, they could help me. And if they can't, please find somebody else. And not only that, don't give up after one session.
Yes. I mean, you know, if we talk a therapy, it's a longer term, and people have to be ready. If we're talking about some folks who, just kind of struggle to do daily work, they're not as productive, because they're just not as productive at work, regardless if it's their own business or they work for someone. and they just need a little push, then finding a good and right coach is really a great thing to do. We all have, all my good colleagues, coaches have their own coach. I have a coach. I mean, we can't coach ourselves. We just can't. Just like therapists cannot be therapists to himself or herself. And another advice we were just discussing with some clients today, that don't ask your brother, sister, cousin to be your coach. I mean, certainly not therapist, but it just doesn't work that way, right? Just because you think you're going to save some money, no, it needs to be professional, right? Somebody who
independent, yes.
Cool. So let's see. So what did we cover? So we said a couple of things, right? The social support is really, really important, and we know how to build it. There are so many different ways. To really do your best to take advantage of this lockdown. You're staying home a lot. We all are. And we should really take advantage and do improve our life. This is the time for some of us lucky ones, right? We're still here. We're still here on this beautiful planet, right? This is the time to get our shit in order, right? To get our life really on the right track. All right. I mean, I used this last year and a half or so to do just that. Yes. Really, in a lot of different ways. So that's why, yes. So that's that. And what else we said? Get help. It's cultural.
Yeah, I'm a kinesiologist. I do work with a range of different emotions as well. And I think that was the other thing, through COVID, I learned how to work online, which was great. So that was the other advantage for me, is how much I could work online now. And so you can reach out to a professional, reach out to somebody that is not your family. I don't know about you, but I don't always listen to the advice from my husband. It's funny. We have this running joke that he'll tell me to do something and I'll go, no. And then I'll talk to my coach.
Yes.
And I'll go, my coach said blah, blah, blah. And he'll go, I told you to do that. I'm going, yeah, I know, but I didn't want to hear it from you. I wanted to hear it from
That's different. That came from you. This came from my coach. He knows me. He knows what I should be doing.
So reach out for professional help at whatever level you need. Absolutely.
Hey, Carolyn, thank you so much. This was a really great discussion. You mentioned kinesiology. I really want to talk to you next time more about kinesiology and what you do, because that's one area I really know nothing about.
Well, thank you, Braco. It was lovely to chat to you.
Same here, my friend. I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.
Bye.
Become the Life Success Academy founding member. Go to academyoflifesuccess.com and click on founding member to get 60% off full membership.